I adore that show so much. I know you're probably getting asked about the cancellation a lot, and like it breaks my heart to not be able to experience certain storylines through to the finish. But
Yeah.
I think one of the things that has kind of upset me most was hearing about that open letter about the representation on the show and how that was
Yeah.
being dealt with, and the fact that we're not going to get to see that brought through to fruition and actually see the action that was taken when something like that was brought up. So just so we kind of
Yeah.
like don't lose the value of that, just from your perspective, what was it like seeing your co-stars, you know, share their voice on the matter, and then seeing the showrunners and the other folks involved actually take their stance on it and run with it?
Yeah, it was absolutely a beautiful thing. Uh, Full disclosure, like, to be fully honest about it, I wasn't privy to a lot of those conversations that were going on behind the scenes, like, and rightly so, because that really is not my place. And that those conversations were for those members of our cast to have directly with our showrunners and directly with Netflix. And I feel so proud of them for making their voices heard. I know that it took a lot of courage, and any actor can tell you, especially if you're still recurring on a show, if you're not in the top 3 on the call sheet, it can feel very precarious. It can feel really dangerous to speak up about anything. And I think that what they did is such a sign of the way things are changing for the better, even though it didn't, in the end, it ended differently than we thought, but not because of the actions that they took at all. So I think it just took an immense amount of bravery for those women to come together and have a really honest conversation about how they were feeling, a really emotional and vulnerable conversation about how they were feeling, but not just that, but also suggestions of how they thought the show could be changed for the better. And I also think a lot of credit is owed to Liz and Carly for, and I just admire them so much for always being the type of women who are open to growing and changing and learning and admitting when they've made mistakes and wanting to make the show better and wanting to change perspectives. And it made me even more proud to have worked with them and to have worked on a show, that's not only, has a cast that's filled out by Brittany and Sidel and Suni and Shakira and Kia and Ellen, who had the courage to write that letter, but also showrunners who really stand by what they say they stand for and were willing to make those changes.
Yeah, I mean, if it's gonna come to an end, but still make an impression that way, I'm kind of glad that still got to happen and that still got out there.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think it was meaningful to those women also to get that closure in a different type of way, to say, we want to be really honest, and that we did love our time working on the show, but here is something that we were really looking forward to having happen. It's not going to happen.
In another sense of closure, I mean, what is it like for you not getting closure for that character? Because we were on the cusp of something that was so important and so deeply personal to her. So is it difficult for you to kind of close the book on that and move on to other projects?
I mean, of course, it's so sad in one respect, because it's just my most favorite job I've ever done. And it was really, I think the way in which it's not sad is in just 3 seasons, I've gotten so much from the show. When I say the show was life-changing for me, it just on every level, on a personal level, in terms of my self-confidence, my relationship with my body, on a professional level, getting to be a #1 on a show, getting to direct, as a leader, also to work with all these women. It inspired me to start writing and producing. Like oh gosh, so there's a leaf blower happening. There was, there's so much that I already got from it. I feel like I got to hone my acting with incredible actors like Betty Gilpin, who, is also the love of my life. And it's like, it brought me to my soulmate in her, and also Liz and Carly, who hopefully I can work with again. So it like feels so greedy to be like, and I need one more. But of course it's sad. I have such a kinship for my character, Ruth, and especially her relationships with Betty Gilpin's character, Debbie, and Mark Maron's character, Sam. I was sort of like, how are things going to end with those two? How is her story going to end? And you know, it's especially bittersweet because I got to have those conversations with Liz and Carly about what might happen over the course of the season. And we did shoot a couple episodes that no one will ever see. But oh gosh, is this terrible for you, this sound?
I actually don't hear it that bad.
Good.
Right now.
Okay, good.
I've been in the leaf blower situation myself, and it's not half bad.
What I will say is this year has put everything in perspective, hopefully for a lot of people. I think this pandemic, this disease, these things that are happening, you know, in our country, and things with Black Lives Matter. There's so many things going on. There are so many important things going on that deserve attention. I think that a lot of us are going to go into next year feeling like totally different people. Like I feel like I've already changed a lot just in the span of the last 8 months, given everything that we've gone through as a country, and you know, in quarantine, and on a macro and a micro level within my own home and family and things like that. So in that way, I actually think it makes it easier to move on, because it also doesn't feel personal. I you know, a lot of shows are falling by the wayside because of COVID restrictions and expenses and the danger of trying to get back into production. And so, you know, I think that I feel like I'll be ready to move on to something else.